bar and
Yeah,
my new
yeah.
office.
So I see that you got this whole farm thing going. I know you've been doing a lot of cooking with Volk as well. You've got this new truck. I don't know if anyone's seen Volkanovski's vlogs, but you've got this truck with this, barbecue outfitted in it, this grill. What I wanted to ask was, when are we going to see a cookbook from Volkanovski? I feel like that'd be pretty fitting.
Mate, we have talked about it. We actually have talked about it a bit because a lot of people hitting us up. And, man, it's definitely something I would probably look into just because, well, my stuff's pretty easy to do. As you can see, it's things that anyone can do, which I like to do. I think people love that. So it's good, easy meals that, I can do that. I'm going to give that a try. So even a cookbook can be very easy for anyone to grab a hold and anyone do in any kitchen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes you've got fancy stuff. None of my stuff's fancy. It looks good. Looks fancy enough, but easy as it. Put it this way, if I can do it, anyone can do it. Like I'm not no chef. I just enjoy cooking. So I think it's something that we might do, and a lot of people are asking for it. So it must be done.
Yeah, man. I mean, you're the cooking guy in the MMA world. There's Jim Miller. Not a lot of people know this, but Jim Miller's got himself a cookbook. I think he's maybe the one fighter, but a cookbook, maybe like a snack or something like a Volk chip. You never know. Something like that could be good. People would
Oh, I
love it.
didn't.
People would love
I
it.
didn't even know that. So what? Like he does
Yeah.
a bit of cooking, does he?
Yeah, he's a big hunter. He's into getting
Oh,
like
yep.
pheasants. He's a big game hunter. So, Jim Miller is he's big on cooking as well. But I'm the same way. I actually used to be big into the fitness scene, and I started making a couple programs. I actually made myself a cookbook. Nothing
Oh,
fancy. There's butter chicken. There's a couple interesting items in there, but I'm sort of like you, big steak guy. Nothing too crazy. Nothing too crazy.
oh, yeah, nice. Yeah, well, man, I didn't know that. So you used to, but like, is that how you started? You started in the fitness world, then you started doing the. Is that how your YouTube channel
Yeah.
started?
Yeah, so I used to make a lot of fitness content because I used to be big into bodybuilding. But then about 6, 7 years ago, I started watching MMA, started doing some boxing, and that's sort of how I got into this. Started making MMA
Nice.
content. But yeah, man, again,
Awesome.
people are asking about that cookbook. So
Okay, yeah,
everyone loves.
I'm gonna have to tee that up. I'll maybe one day we could do a little cooking video, mate. I'll do one with Jim Miller as well. I didn't know about him doing that, so yeah,
Yeah,
we need
Jim Miller.
I need to keep their episodes rolling. So every opportunity I get, a collab or a new meal is always good.
Absolutely. So, Volk, it's been almost a year since you've been in the octagon. You've had a lot of time out, right? A lot of time to add new tricks up your sleeve, specifics training with guys like Craig Jones. What can the fans expect from, an evolved Volkanovski, slightly older, but craftier Alexander Volkanovski the next time we see you?
I mean, I think you're going to still see the same guy. So you want to see the same. How could you say it? Like I just think the last time I was in there, I just didn't fight my fight as well. So I just wasn't me in there. Doesn't mean the new say the next time you see me, there will be new tricks up the sleeve, obviously. But I still want to get back to that same guy. If I fight my fight and lose, I'd be okay. The fact that I just didn't feel like I fought my fight, there's anyone can say what they want of why they thought so, but that doesn't sit well with me. If I go
Mhm.
out there and fight my fight, and just be the Volkanovski that everyone's always seen, that's a hard man to beat. So
Right.
obviously, say with Ilia, he's a dangerous fighter. We know he's got some hands, so it's things you've got to be careful of. But that doesn't mean you have to fight scared. You still got to fight your fight, and again, without giving too much away, yeah, I'll you'll be seeing the same Volk that you've seen, but yeah, maybe a few tricks up your sleeve.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, obviously it didn't go your way, the fight against Ilia, but there were moments where you were having success early on. You were piecing them up. There were lots of moments where you were finding your timing early with the kicks, especially with the jab. Obviously, with a guy like Ilia Topuria, the guy just has ridiculous power, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the right hand is insane, but you know, again, you were winning the striking exchanges early on in that fight. Ilia is not necessarily the biggest volume guy. Obviously, again, the power is something that you got to worry about, but there was just a fight booked in your division. Yair Rodriguez
Mm.
and Diego Lopez.
And that's
And
locked
there's
in. That's
Yeah, I'm
official.
I'm not 100% sure if that's
I did
like
see that.
again official, but that's basically being targeted for a Mexico fight night. So again, that sort of leaves the question of, are you going into training camp soon? And the only two guys I can think of that don't have anything booked are Ilia, right? And then there's Movsar Evloev. I don't know. No one's really talking about that fight, but are you heading into training camp for someone right now?
I'm training hard, yeah, yeah. Like, look, nothing's. I'll be honest with you, nothing's locked in. But I've made it clear from the start. So I'm fighting for the belt next. We've made it clear. We even went and had our face off. Um, so that's going to happen. Look, the dates. Um, we have been in talks, but it's not official. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
we'll see. I think I've given you enough anyway. You know what I mean? It's pretty
Yeah, yeah,
obvious. You've seen a lot of talks. We did the face off. I think people are pretty certain that that's what's going to be next. So I don't think I'm going to get myself in trouble by saying that. So, but yeah, so we don't know the exact date. We got rough ideas. Like I said, we've had chats. There's whispers out there. Maybe they're correct.
yeah.
Maybe then ones we'll see. We'll leave that up for everyone to decide. But yeah, I was always fun for the belt next. I did what I thought I had to do, recover. Back on what you were saying though, with Ilia and with our fight. Yeah, like a lot of people going, oh, you winning rounds. You won the first round. You even winning the second round. See, a lot of people are like, oh, that means it's a good thing. It goes, yeah, all right. Like I'll still win it, but I still wasn't fighting my fight. I still gave he's a guy that's going to stay on path. He wasn't phased by, me. I was landing jabs. So he wasn't phased. He was always, I'm going to find it. I'm going to find it. And I gave him the opportunity. You know what I mean? I did. You can't give too much away when you have these conversations, I guess.
Of course.
But
No, I understand.
but he was, I did some things that I wouldn't usually do, and I was pretty. I like to mix things up. I like to make people fight my fight, and it's very hard to get a read on me because I'm constantly changing things up, and I just didn't do that then. I was
Yeah.
more. I can't get caught. I can't get caught. Obviously, I just got caught a few months before, so in my head, I'm like, this is the only way you can beat me. I can't get caught. So I just didn't really wasn't able to just do what I probably would do, even though I was like sort of winning them rounds. It's still, I just feel like I put myself in a position that with a guy like Ilia, he's going to eventually catch it doing that. And I ain't going to do that again. Again, that's what annoys me. If I go there and got caught fighting my fight, all right, sweet. You know what I mean? But that's just that's the game. But I just felt like I wasn't able to just go out there and back myself or anything like that. Which this time, I'm hoping to have that same Volk that you've always seen going out there and obviously with a good game plan, good strategy. I've always fought like that. I've always had that fight IQ. You're going to have to use your fight IQ with someone like Ilia. I was using that a little bit with some of my offense, but at the same time, a lot of that IQ was just not get caught, and then there was patterns that I was doing that it was pretty easy for him to get a read on and make the adjustment. And credit to him, not many fighters will make that adjustment. He did,
Right.
so I give him credit for that. But at the same time, it's very hard to make adjustments to me because usually it's very hard. You won't see me do too much of the same thing. But you usually see me going so much the one way, whether I'm going backwards or I'm going left or I'm going wide, or you think I'm going back, but I'm coming forward, or you know what I mean. I'm pushing forward, but then to come back when I come forward, I'm constantly breaking my patterns. My
Right.
rhythm's always changing. My beats are always changing. I fight at a total different beat to a lot of fighters, and I just wasn't really able to do. I was able to catch him with some of that stuff, but there was a lot of patterns that I gave my. I just let it be that little bit too easy to read. Only certain fighters will
Right.
capitalize on that, and Ilya is good enough to do that.
Right. So yeah, no, I completely understand what you're saying about like these patterns that people can pick up on, especially someone like Ilya, when you've got that on your mind and you're not necessarily imposing your will in the way that you want to. And like obviously you want to be this unpredictable guy, feinting, showing people different things at all times, keeping them guessing. I understand that. And I
Exactly.
want to say this. if you do beat Ilia Topuria, I mean, obviously the guy's stock is high right now. He's being talked about as like this guy that's completely unbeatable. He'd beat everyone at 155 pounds. If you win that next fight, that, in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinions, would be one of the greatest wins ever. And take into consideration you're 36 years old, I believe. I
Yep.
don't think anybody in the history of the sport has won a title in 155 pounds or below at 35 years old or above. So that, again, would break records. So again, big risk, but enormous reward. That's like, if you win this type of fight, I mean, what does that say about your legacy, right?
We're looking at one of the biggest comebacks in UFC history. That's what we're looking for. That's what we want, and I'm gunning for it. I'm going all in. So there are dates that we think it's a few months away. Um, just don't want to. I don't want to say yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, I think it's pretty obvious anyway. Um, that's what look again. It's not locked. I'll tell you right now. I haven't signed no contract. It's just whispers. You obviously heard about him moving up and things like that. But then you did see that somewhere in Spain there was leaked with some information. So that looks like it was from their end. So I haven't heard much from on their end. So that's why you never know, right? But to
Yeah.
see that makes me think like, all right, we're getting a bit of progress there. But it was always going to be me, but when
Mhm.
that's sort of what it is. And I've waited long enough. I had the break that I wanted, that everyone wanted, but now we're ready to get back in there. But
Right.
like I said, I think this could be one of the greatest comebacks. As you said, coming off two big KO losses at an age that no one's ever really come back from or won a title from, to go out there and do that, I guarantee you I'm going to be underdog by a long shot. And I love being the underdog. We know that. I've always talked about being the underdog my whole life, and I thrive in those moments. And it looks like we're there again. So cool. I love it. You know what I mean? Backs against the wall. I'm coming out swinging, and I want to get that hand raised and be champ again. And then we'll see what happens after that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there have been some other times in your career where your back's been against the wall, not in the same way, but there was a time earlier on in your career after that Holloway rematch where, again, it felt like there were some doubts and you
Mm-hmm.
leveled up big time. Your next performance, Ortega, that's the legend making performance where you get out of the choke, and then the TKZ fight, you just run through them. The Holloway trilogy. I want to ask you about those
Mm-hmm.
moments in a little bit. And I know that Ilia Topuria, that's who you're gunning for. That's what you're thinking about. But for the future, and I'm talking about the far future, assuming you're going to be around and fighting for a couple more years, everyone kind of assumes that a guy in your position, you have all these accolades at 145 pounds. Everybody assumes that eventually this guy's going to move to 155. That's where the big fights are at, the marquee weight class. But I'm just curious, are there any fun fights at 145? You've got guys like Aljo or maybe a Josh Emmett, something like that, something fun that we could see from Volkanovski before moving back up if you do decide to move back up someday.
Well, I mean, there's a couple of guys like there are interesting matchups, but I think the interesting matchups are the guys that are next, right? And
Yeah,
you got your Lopez, who's definitely close. Like I know he was gunning for the title, and he's in a position where, he if I wasn't there, he'd be getting it. And you got Mosvar, who's undefeated, which is another name, and he just beat Aljo. So Aljo, I think one of them two was. It's a very interesting fight, and that was a close fight.
very close.
Um, but Mosvar got the win. So yeah, they're the guys that you're probably
Hmm.
looking at. You're looking at
Right.
your Mosvars and your Lopez. But right now, I've just obviously got my eyes on Ilia.
Yeah.
That's the main one. Lightweight. Do I do lightweight again? I don't know because I've just got my eye on featherweight right now. There are interesting fights. I'd love to go back up there, but right now I just got Ilia on my mind. So I go out there, you win there, you'll see. We'll see what's installed after that, right?
Mhm.
Again, if you've got Lopez, if he does have the Yair Rodriguez fight and beat Yair, everyone's going to be screaming his name, or even a Mosbar. I think a Mosbar and Lopez fight rematch. You know what I mean? I think that if they want to fight to have a clear number one guy, because they're both going to be gunning for it, who gets it? You know what I mean? Wipe the other guy out, and then there's no questions, no more questions about it. And that's what I did when I was coming up. I made sure I took out all the number one contenders. You know what I mean? Aldo was that guy that just was taking out all the contenders. And if you beat him, it was clear that you're the guy. So I'm like, oh, I'll go fight him in his hometown. So
Yeah.
there's no one else. And that's exactly what I did. And I think that's what maybe these guys got to do. Maybe that's what's happening. I think there is whispers. You've seen um, that Lopez said he's in camp. We'll see if it is Yair Rodriguez or if it's Mosba.
Mhm. Well, either way, that those all could be interesting matchups. We talk about your future. A lot of people are asking you what's ahead, but I want to take a moment to look at your accomplishments. The great things you've done in your career. You started as a rugby player, 214 pounds, density maxing, right? Before you got into MMA, I've always wanted to ask, with a rugby guy, you would expect that, type of athlete to come into a combat sport and be a bit of a slugger, maybe like a Josh Emmett type of fighter, throwing big meaty hooks, gnarly overhands. Did you ever have a time in your career where you had to sort of change and work to fall out of something like that? Or were you always sort of a natural, high output finesse type of striker?
Yeah, no, it was definitely, I was more of a slugger, like a brute wrestler because I had that wrestling background. I just I just got footage of some of my old wrestling clips, and I'm like 11 years old. I don't even remember them days. I just knew that I was, quite, pretty good at it. I only did a couple of years, and I was able to catch up with some old wrestling mates, and they had the footage of it, which was pretty cool. I'm just bringing that up because that's awesome. So I've always had that wrestling background. And when I played rugby league again, I was a brute. Like obviously I was heavy. I've always been a bulky solid. Even with them wrestling clips, you could see that I had a big ass, chunky legs. At 11 years old, I was just a little tank even then. I think I had pretty long arms then as well. So it was pretty cool to see that. But my earlier fights, you could say I was a wrestler with overhand right. But I always had a really good understanding of distance still. I
Yeah.
understood distance. I understood the timing. I still understood a lot of the really important things, not technique in strikes and all that sort of stuff. I didn't understand it, but I would do it instinctively. It's like
Right.
my
Right.
body mechanics have just always. I don't know. I don't know. Even when I was wrestling, I'm looking at these old footage of me wrestling. I'm just like things that I know I do now. I'm like I'm doing this stuff back then. No one taught me that stuff. Like if that makes sense, it's just a
No, no, I get it. Yeah.
yeah, the body mechanics and just the awareness of how to control someone, how to manipulate someone's body with leverage um, and just put them in places they don't want to be, where they're strong and where they're weak, and where I'm strong and where I'm weak, and just that natural base. And I've just always had that. And then the striking was always more brute. Like I could get the timing and do some decent things. Still had a decent jab for someone who's a football player. But I mean, that striking definitely came when I started training around the world. You know what I mean? A lot of the real high level stuff. The beauty of having my coach Joe Lopez is we've traveled the world together. You know what I mean? He knows he's not going to know everything. So we go and evolve together, which is good. It's good to have a coach that's going to be able to do that. So we're able to go to Thailand, get some Muay Thai, get some of that American wrestling that they had over there as well. Then we went to like CKB and trained with the guys over there who are known for their kickboxing. Your Israel Adesanyas, and they've got a whole lineage of kickboxing. So to go over
Right.
there and just bring, even though I've always naturally did some of those things, get a better understanding of that. So we learned so much over there, and we're obviously still affiliated with them. We're actually going over there. Joe and I are going over there very soon to get a bit of training. We haven't really done much of our camp there for quite a while, but we're going to do a bit over there, nice and early before camp start. If camp starts, again, not trying to give too much away. um, uh, but yeah, it's pretty obvious. I'm probably getting in camp soon. So I guess you heard it here first. But yeah, it's looking forward. But I think I got a lot of that from that technical side of things. Whole another level. Probably when I started, training around the world, especially at City Kickboxing, because
Yeah.
they've got a good eye. And then I was able to sort of mold that as my own style. So take a bit of the wrestling and everything, and my style, and then Joe and I just mold it into my perfect fighter, my body shape, my style, what
Right.
works for me.
Yeah. I know that you've spent a lot of time training at CKB, and obviously now you do most of your training with Joe Lopez, but you spent a lot of time at Tiger Muay Thai, training with guys like Jan, Rafael Fiziev. I believe you won the tryouts for Tiger
Hmm.
Muay Thai, right? Was that like, how long did it take you from the moment you started training to start training at Tiger Muay Thai?
So yeah, 2014 was the Tiger Muay Thai tryouts. Oh
Yeah.
no, was that right? No, that's not right. Um, or what? No, I think it is right actually. Yeah, it is right. Yeah, sorry. It is about 2014, I think it was, and I started in 2011. Maybe I started
2011.
just
Yeah.
started. So or 12 maybe. I
Yep.
can't remember. So it was only a couple of years in. So
Mhm.
we went over there and um, went to the tryouts. And I decided to. I went from a guy that was concreting. My first year of MMA, I was still playing football and I was concreting. So I was doing all three, which was quite rough. And then the next year, I was just doing a bit more. I decided to give up rugby league and focus more on the MMA, but I was still working. But then I decided to go full time right on that. I was like, I'm going to go to Thailand, I'm going to try out, but this is, if I make it cool, if not, I'm still going all in and I'm going to go full time. And it was, yeah, it's pretty good. Just the timing of that was around that same time, which was a bit of an eye opener going from being able to go over there and be a professional fighter, a real professional
Right.
fighter, full time fighter, because you just didn't have that really here. Especially because I still work and I would do morning sessions, but it would just be most of the time just Joe and I. Like I might have a
Yep.
couple of early days. We didn't really have the training partners, so we had to sort of travel. Now we've got some great training partners. But yeah, it was crazy. So that was probably a couple of years, 2 3 years
Right.
into it. I think I was only maybe 4 or 5 fights into my professional career when I went over there, maybe six, something like that.
And for the people that don't know, can you tell us a little bit about the Tiger Muay Thai tryouts and what you get if you win those tryouts?
So what they did there, they did tryouts that you try and then you'd get a scholarship. So you could go over there, the free training, you would get a meal plan, uh, pretty much sponsor you to be able to train there full time and look after you with food and not accommodation. Or they have accommodation? I don't think they had accommodation at the thing, but they had the food plan and free training, which is massive. It was a massive opportunity to do. And again, it was a world class facility too. So
Yeah.
you're training
And
with.
and the pads to hit back, right? You've got these guys that'll
Well, I can tell you a
tell us
bit
a little bit
about the
about the.
tryouts too. So you could, if you go there and you watch it, like the year before,
Yeah.
they did a little bit, but it was not too much. I think they always they might have been a little rough. It was nowhere like our one, 2014 tryouts, where they just absolutely beat the ball. I was lucky enough. I went with Roger Huerta. So he was all right. He felt bad. So he would slap you a little bit, but we had guys getting elbowed, getting kneed, getting cut. Like we had guys getting stitches, um, broken ribs,
And this is
busted
from
ribs,
when people are holding pads
holding
for
pads. The
them and
Muay
they're
Thai
trying to beat them
trainers,
up to see how
which
tough they are, right?
exactly to see,
Yeah.
if you, it's depended how you, if you were held your own, like, not being a dick, but like you'd go there and, hit pads and then block and not go on the back foot and be a coward, which how they looked at it. If you were being a coward, they'll make you pay, where they wanted you to be a little more durable. But it was a whole nother level. So, well, I'm sitting there hitting pads and I'm just seeing people drop next to me. And I'm just like, what's going on here? You know what I mean? It was pretty nuts. So there's actually still footage of that. So I still train in Thailand. I'm going to be doing a bit in Thailand this year as well, but I'm actually at Bang Tao now. So a lot of the coaches that were there, um, over at Bang Tao, which is just again training in Thailand. It's unreal. It's obviously cheaper where people can go there and spend more time and be able to be a full-time fighter, especially for guys that are just getting sort of in their professional career that are still working. Oh, I'm going to go do a month over there because they can't afford it and just be a full-time fighter. It's a game changer. I think that helped me quite a bit to be able to go from just your part-time fighter to full-time fighter.
Yeah. And, again, you trained with guys like Piotr Jan there, Rafael Fiziev, done a lot of training with Adesanya. So, I mean, I wanted to ask you what makes a champion and what separates a champion from, let's just say, contenders, right? Someone that's
Mm-hmm.
ranked number 11, someone that's just outside of the rankings. Is it being the
Yep.
hardest worker in the room? Is it unreal talent, a little bit of a combo? What would you say separates the champions from other good fighters?
It's always going to come down to that work ethic. I believe not just it is obviously work ethic. You need to have commitment, and the commitment comes in a few different ways. You can just be a hard worker, but not take in what coaches are, you know what I mean? You still need to take in what the coaches are bringing you or understand what's going on. So you need to be, when I say fully committed, you want to know why you're doing things and things like that. So the commitment isn't just working hard, but I think you need to be fully invested. I think what separates the elites from your contenders or even champions in the elites, I still think another layer. It's just doing what most of the people just don't want to do, and that's them extra hours, that extra work. The Black Mamba. You talk about Kobe Bryant's mentality and all that, and you hear a lot of the elites talk about it. It's just they were doing them little extras, and they just
Yep.
were just committed like that. A lot of people are like, I don't need to do that. Like they don't think it's enough. But if you are fully invested like that, you want to know you're not just going through the motions. You want to know why you're doing things when you're fully committed, fully invested. And I just think that discipline and full investment that I did put into my career is what was separating me from the rest. I don't think it comes down to talent. I've always said that I haven't been the most athletic guy. There's guys that I look and I'm like, man, that bloke's athletic. That's talent. But then you can go and kick their ass because they just don't know how to handle the pressure or handle all the other elements that come with it. But if you're fully committed to your sport and you put the hours in and do what no one else really wants to do, you can handle it. You need to be resilient, you need to be durable, and the hours in the gym is what's going to do that. There's the adversities that you push yourself through day in day out is really what molds you into this resilient, unbreakable guy. You know what I mean? That's what I think separated me from the rest.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it comes
And
down to all that work ethic and that commitment. So people are gonna talent. Someone that's talent, you're not going to see them get out of a Brian Ortega guillotine. You know
right.
what I mean? Your
Yep.
talent, you're not going to see them smile in the grips of Islam Makachev. You know what I mean? It's just things like that. It's just I put myself through the wars. It ain't easy. It's not easy at all. It's hard work. And people are like, "Oh, do you love it?" You don't love it. Like, you know what I mean? I think Mike Tyson said it best. He said, I think it might be another saying, but I remember hearing him say it. It's like, um, do what you hate to do, but do it like you love it. You know what I mean? So like we don't love to do it. It's hard work. It hurts. It's painful. You know what I mean? There's sacrifices. It ain't fun, but that's what it takes to be elite, to be the best. And if you want to be the best, you've got to do that. There's going to be a lot of sacrifices. There's going to be a lot of hurting, and a lot. Yeah, you're going to be uncomfortable for many, many years. But that's what separates. That's what separates the elites from your challenges.
Right. And I'm sure always evolving, not getting comfortable with your style, always pushing to learn new things. There was a time in
And
your
that
career
comes
that
in
I
the
mentioned.
commitment. That's what I mean with the
Yeah.
commitment, right? If you're committed, some people just go through the motions. It's like with me, someone shows me something, I want to know why that move works. Now I'm in a stage where you could show me, and then I know exactly the mechanics behind it all, and I could do a million different other moves because of that. You show me one thing, and then I get a real good understanding of it because I know why it works. I know what it's doing to your opponent, and I know what I'm doing to stay stronger. I know the reason behind every little millimeter of that technique. Where some people just want to do the technique. I don't want to just do the technique. I want to know why every little element of that technique is effective. And when you get a real understanding of that, there's no point in a scramble or point when you're in that octagon where you're going to be worried or like, oh, what do I do here? You know what I mean? Like you're always going to find a way because you just understand the mechanics and that body awareness and everything that comes around it. And again, if you're not committed to your sport and you're not putting them extra hours in and just doing what you need to do, again, don't just go through the motions. There's a difference. I can go there, put the hours in, and just go through the motions, and it's not enough. You need to be fully invested. Maybe I'm a bit crazy. Maybe that's a lot of the elites. Maybe they're a little crazy too, and that's why we're good at what we do. But that's you need to be fully invested.
You have to be. You have to be. And again, with you wanting this fight with Ilia again, obviously you deserve it because that's your only loss at featherweight. But again, it's like you got to be crazy to continue to want to fight the best, continue to want to get better. But again, like that's what got you here. That's what got you in this
Mhm.
position. There was a time in your career where you were already a champion. This is two fights into your championship run. You beat Max Holloway twice, right? So beating Max Holloway, that's already massive. But it seemed like you made a jump from the Holloway rematch to the Brian Ortega fight. And not only did you seem to be faster, but just everything sort of took a new level. You looked even leaner. You looked even more trim. If you look at yourself in the Holloway first fight, the second fight, and the trilogy, looks like even maybe trimmed down a little bit, right? What did you do to sort of get to the next level as a champion already? Because again, the Ortega fight, outside of those two moments where he had you in the choke, you basically dominated the majority of the fight. The TKZ fight, masterclass, and of course the Holloway trilogy. That's like most people would consider that your best win. But what was it that allowed you to again achieve that next level? And anything specific that you were
Yeah,
doing?
there's a few things there. So that's where I started really getting a good understanding of the game. So what I was getting taught, I got a real good understanding of it, and I was able to, because I was training all around the world. A beauty of being able to, say, take that back home, and then you get to really finesse it and really bring it to your own. Get an even better understanding, not only of the technique or how it works for you. So I was able to just do a lot of this knowledge and really make it blend in my style. And that's where we were able to do that because I traveled a bit. And then, during the COVID and after that, we did all our camps at home, and you just seen me evolve. So it was like I got a lot of the knowledge, and then I was able to really sort of get a better understanding of it and make it my own. So it was just when I started molding this game plan, and then I'm lucky enough where I had nutrition where we used Geordie, who's good. You can lose the weight. Everyone can lose the weight. You can do it wrong though. You can go there and just lose the weight. You know what I mean? And and not be a struggle during camp because you're not eating right. Like I eat more now than I ever did because I'd be like, oh, I'd eat a bit on the weekends and then eat next to nothing during the week. I'll get through it. I'm sort of thankful that I did that to myself back in them times because now I'm quite resilient because I used to train underfed, most of my career. Where
Yeah.
now I'm able to eat good. So you've got these guys. It's not only about losing weight. You need to be able to perform. So I was able to eat a lot more carbs, right? Like to where before I would be like, oh, scared of carbs because we didn't know enough back then. So I'm
Yeah,
sitting there, I
yeah.
was scared of carbs, I was scared of all this sort of stuff. Yet I was still doing 4 or 5 sessions a day. I'll get through it. You know what I mean? Like if people seen what I was eating back then
Right.
and doing what I was doing, they're going to be like, man, what are you doing? I guarantee you, like you're losing muscle, you're putting more fat, and just
You're
things like that.
miserable.
That's just yeah, yeah. But I
Yeah,
mean, it's
yeah.
just it made me quite resilient though. But then you had uh, like Geordie will come on board, and I remember the first I was meant to fight um, Ortega the first time, and that was like the first time that I took all that serious. 'Cause I'm a family man, so I would go there and I would do what I could, and I would in between sessions I would try and take the family to the park and do stuff, and you're cooked. Like I'm getting through the sessions, but I was, you're not eating right. I'm just like, oh yeah, I won't eat much. And but then for that first Ortega, which I ended up getting, that was during COVID. I ended up getting COVID, so we had to it got cancelled. That was the first time I ever followed the nutrition to a T. I even slept. That was the first time I started napping in between sessions. And I was that little bit more selfish where
Mhm.
when I say selfish, I was like, all right, I can't just be going and I just don't have the energy, to just take the kids to parks and run them around and all that. I need to properly recover before these big sessions in the afternoon. And I remember doing it. That was the first time I did it. And I remember even saying to the missus, man, I could do another 10 years of this. Like, I mean, like I felt so good eating right. And I'm like, oh man,
Right.
let's go. So like that was where I sort of took the recovery serious. So that's when I was, doing some baths or like I'd even go. I'm not a fan of the ice bath, so I don't do ice baths.
Yep.
I do more hot baths and that, which I think that does good for me.
Yep.
But yeah, I was sleeping properly, resting, properly eating, and it was a game changer. And
Mhm.
that's where you see me starting to evolve as well. And then I felt like I got my fitness even to a whole nother level where I was always fit, but I was able to be explosive at the same time because the training that we did, because I was recovered better, and then we even bring the training load maybe down a little bit, and I was eating better where I'll probably recover. So when I did do the fight simulators, I could go 100%. So if
Yeah.
you're training hard all week, you end up doing these fight simulators, the most important sessions at 80%, 75%.
Yeah, there's
Don't get me wrong,
diminishing
that was,
returns. Yeah.
yeah, yes, people still watch and be like, man, this guy, look how
Right.
good he's doing it. But then I was able to properly recover. I would come into these sessions fresh and I just felt explosive. I was able to be explosive still. And, my timing was getting better, even under fatigue. So
Mhm.
I just felt like it was a few different things. Nutrition was
Right.
better. I took my recovery serious uh, and just really understood the timing, fighting at different beats and rhythms, and
Yep.
your feint game, and all these other layers. I just got a real better understanding of it. And then you just see me. I felt like you did see me evolve. That was me just evolving, get a real good understanding of everything.
Yeah, and no, as I said, you can see the difference with the way that you looked early on in your career to the Ortega fight, the TKZ fight. And it's interesting that you said that you used to do like a lower carb diet. And I was the same way when I first started getting into nutrition. I would think, okay, I'm going to crash my carbs. I'm going to be on the meager diet, the fish diet, and it works. It certainly works. But after a while, everything starts to slow down. Your metabolism starts to slow
Mm,
down, and what made me realize that carbs are extremely important for people that want to keep their weight down, for people that are trying to lose weight, keep their weight down, is when I actually, one year I was doing this keto diet. I was, losing weight, but very slowly. I said, fuck it, I'm going to bulk. I hopped on, a higher carb diet. I was eating carbs every single meal. Within the first couple of days, my weight started to plummet. And not only that, I was getting fuller. My strength was coming back. So something as little as just changing your diet and adding in carbs makes a huge difference. People don't
mm.
understand it, but and the way that you feel gives you more energy, right? More mental clarity. It's massive. It's huge.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
everyone's obviously going to be the calories in, calories out, which is that's just how it is. But starving your body or bringing your metabolism up, you know what I mean, is definitely something. Because I remember I had to do the first Islam one. We wanted to bulk, we wanted to put on weight, so I was eating so much, and I couldn't put on weight. It just wouldn't come on, even though I was eating like 4 or 5 thousand calories a day. Oh, mate, I hated food. I couldn't stand it.
Yeah.
That was so much
It's
harder than
tough.
dieting. Dieting was easy because I was so used to it. I was used to starving. But trying to force feed yourself, I couldn't believe it. I thought, how am I whinging about eating so much? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It was funny. That was really really hard to do, which I don't even know if I put on too much. But as you were saying, like because outside of camp, you can eat good, you're all right, and you end up, you put on you bulk up a little bit. You might put on a little bit more muscle and fat, but then during the camp, your weight comes down. But then depending on how you're doing it, is your fat coming down or is your muscle coming down? A lot of the times I'll just bring a lot of the muscle down because the weight was coming off. I'm like, oh, yeah, cool. But you'd see a lot of the muscle and come. So we do all the DEXA scans now, and we, trying to keep that muscle up there and bring the fat down. And so obviously there is a science to it. If you've got to lose weight, you've got to
Yeah.
lose weight. But I mean, if you can do it with the science and being able to perform throughout the process, which you can when you've got time, that's perfect. And that's sort of was a bit of a game changer for us. And I
Mhm.
think that even helps with the weight cuts. When you're holding that little bit more muscle, there's a lot more water that you can get rid of too.
Yeah. Well, again, just optimizing everything. I mean, this is very important. But I want to talk about a not so optimal state. Let's talk a little bit about melatonin gate. I like to call it melatonin gate. We're talking about the rematch with Max Holloway. All
Yeah.
right. And, I'll let you kind of explain what I mean by melatonin gate. But the reason I wanted to talk about this fight is because I personally feel like this is one of the most underrated performances of your career. You're in there with Max Holloway. Something got messed up right before the fight. You're down 2 rounds against one of the best volume strikers in history that never slows down, that you can't KO, that you can't take down, right? I want to know about, what happened in that fight, how you were able to adjust, what happened before, because I feel like this is like one of the most chaotic fights of your career. But I really think it's an underrated win because, people talk about Stipe, the body shots against DC, the comeback, down 2 rounds to a guy like Holloway. That's pretty crazy coming back like that, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, 100%. It is, especially when you look at who it is. You're doing it against someone like Max Holloway. I mean, but you didn't have that comeback with, big finish,
Right,
but
right,
because it was like taking them later rounds, just sometimes in the entertainment business, is not enough for some people. Some people that appreciate it is like you to be able to edge out rounds against someone like Max Holloway. People can still appreciate that, but to your most of your fans, they're just like, he got dropped in the first round. How did he win? So and
right.
I get it.
Yeah.
That was a pretty bad time of my career because that was a lot of negative comments after that. And I've always been a people pleaser. So for me to get all this hate, I just didn't get it. I'm like, why am I getting all this hate? I'm not that type of guy that tries to offend anyone. What's going on here? So that was hard for me. But yeah, it was a tricky one. I mean, I don't want to get too much into the other stuff. Well, put it this way, I'll never have melatonin the night, especially when you're fighting in the morning, the night before the fight. So we do take the melatonin fight week, so you can
Right,
get the UFC. They'll give you a melatonin. Like I think melatonin's fine anyway, but you make sure you get
right.
the
Yeah.
ones that they
The
give you that
UFC is
USADA
okay with. Right,
approved them.
right.
But yeah, like so that'll, especially when you've got to go fight overseas in different time zones, it definitely helps. It puts you in the sleep
Mhm.
cycle, like a sleep cycle. So it's unreal. I love it. It works well for me.
Yeah.
But just don't do a fight night. But I did it, and then everyone knows about me getting woken up um, the night of my fight. So I mean, I'm
Yeah.
fighting. So I had to get up, I
In the
think,
morning, right?
3 or 4 in the morning, and they're waking me up in the midnight. So I had to get up in 4 hours. I got woken up to piss in a cup.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To do. I'm like, what's going on here? Like, we
Right.
couldn't believe it. But and then I'm obviously struggling to get back to sleep. I thought, oh, I'll do the melatonin thing. But then waking up in the morning, I'm just like, man, I need
Groggy.
coffee, man. Like I feel like I should be sleeping still. But anyway, that was like a bad dream, that whole thing. Because remember, it was during COVID. It was only like a 6 week camp. I was quite heavy. It was like I think I ended up weighing 77 kilograms for that fight, which I don't get that heavy. I can get heavy if I want, but I try not to. I try and sit at 74,
Right.
75 because that's where I feel best. That's where I feel sharp and I move well and my timing's on and I'm not carrying as much weight and I feel just as strong. So, but yeah, there was just a few things there. you don't want to get into it because you don't want to take nothing away because Max turned up that fight. He turned up,
Well,
and
yeah,
one
the
thing that I just
adjustment
found
was
it
the
hard for
counter.
me. Yeah, sorry. One thing that I found hard was just I had to force everything. That's what was weird for me. So like no reaction. I just had no reaction time where, I'll go there. Usually you play what's in front of you, you do things, you fight, and then the opportunities that come, there's muscle memory there, your time is there, and bang, they make a mistake, you capitalize. It's just ends up being instinct through camp and with your reactions and all that. And it just wouldn't happen. So I literally had to just force myself to fire, force myself to throw. So it was a really, really, it's hard to explain.
Yeah,
Where I just found out and I'm like, we're doing certain things that he had a great game plan and he did certain things. So I changed things up in the third round. And that's when I started to catch him. And I did a bit of that in the third fight. I thought
yeah,
I'm going to do this because it worked in the later rounds. Maybe you don't want to give too much away. Now people can look at it and maybe see what I'm talking about. But in the third fight, I go, I'm going to do that because I know, he was expecting he did a great job of me doing this. So I'll see how that is. But I expected him to be ready for it because I did it and I had success in it in the later rounds in that second fight. So I thought he would be catch on to it, and he didn't. So I didn't have to change anything that whole fight. And
yeah.
yeah, but I mean, it was a tough one. Like you said, I think it's still underrated because of who Max was. A bad start. Um, just I was you have your nights when you're on. Like my third fight against Max, I was on. You know what I mean? My second fight with Max, I was not on. I had to force it and I had to make it happen. And that's why I think if people could that's why I feel like it's underrated. Against someone like Max
Yeah.
Holloway, one of the best to ever do it, impressive. Someone that doesn't tire and then to go out there and edge rounds against someone like that. That's what I think was pretty impressive, but it's not the most entertaining way to do it, especially to your casual fans.
Right. But I also think that partly, especially at the time, a lot of people's, opinions were clouded because of how much they love Max, right? Because it was
Mm-hmm.
closer than the first fight, and oh, Max is getting the belt back, and then obviously he comes up short. But objectively, that fight is not, in my opinion, boring. Maybe to the more casual fan, it is. But if anyone watches that back, again, high level chess match, high output. Both of you
Mm-hmm.
guys are landing the entire time. I mean, I feel like that's one of the best type of fights that there is. And again, it's like you have these moments in your career where you're on and you have a really, perfect performance. But again, it's very impressive when things can start off rough and you're still able to pull through. That's like the championship mentality, right? So again, I just wanted to ask you about that fight, about the adjustment that you had to make in the middle of that fight. Obviously, the trilogy, we all know what happened there. But I wanted to ask before I get into some rapid fire questions. Before we wrap things up, I wanted to ask. You've been in there with Max Holloway. You've been in there with Yair Rodriguez. I think out of everyone that you fought, when it comes to just output, tit for tat, let's say no KOs, just tit for tat. I feel like these are some of the best guys the UFC has ever seen, right? And you fought both of them. Can you kind of tell me, in your opinion, who is the more difficult fighter to outpoint, right? Not necessarily beat, but outpoint. Was it Yair? Because it's like every second there's a pop quiz. You don't know what's coming. Is it Max? Because, of course, it's like the guy he's like an avalanche. He never stops.
I mean, Max Holloway is going to be more harder puzzle because he's going to be durable. He's very hard to knock out. He's got great takedown defense. You ain't going to tire him. So there's a very hard. That's where you have to, be real strategic, be really effective, real good with your timing. You know what I mean? Where your year, he's more dangerous. See, and he's more dangerous, a lot harder to read. But there's still other things. You can go to your wrestling. There's certain things that we did. We ended up getting a pretty good read on him. I thought I did a pretty good job to take away a lot of his good tools. Like there were certain things that he likes to do in Southpaw or even in Orthodox. I sort of took them away, knowing that he would end up switching, then took things away that way. I was able to. He's still going to land. He's still going to fire things, but I was able to take away a lot of his main dangerous tools and get him sort of hesitating and reacting how we wanted. Even though it was still always, I still had to deal with off the cuff things that he fires, but I was able to do that. With Max, he can change. Like even our first fight, especially, we made like 4 adjustments in that fight. You know what I mean? I'd make this adjustment, then he would realize, oh, I need to do this, and then I would do this, and then he would, oh, I got to do this, and I would have to do this again. Minor adjustments, but enough to sort of get things difficult. You don't usually need to go so many layers into it. And the same with Islam Makhachev, where with the grappling, usually you go through 1 or 2 layers in your scrambles, and that's enough. But with him, I had to go 4 or 5 layers. I had to go here,
Right.
then he'll do this, and I'll do that, and then we'll do this, and then which you don't usually need to go that deep. So it depends on who's in front of you and the level they have is how deep that's going to go. With Max, you're going to go real deep with it.
Right.
And obviously he is very, very dangerous, but he's more on the danger and really good explosive, crazy techniques. But I feel like if you take some of those away, you can start to clinch, you can start to do these other things, which that's stuff's going to be hard with Max. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I want to ask you some quick rapid fire questions before we wrap it up.
Yep.
So, what is Volk more likely to do? Compete in boxing or compete in grappling?
Compete in boxing or grappling? I love both. I love boxing as well. I've always loved boxing. I love grappling. Both. You know what I mean? Bit of both.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
That's
Maybe,
like this one here. It depends who pays more.
would you
But
ever do a fight pass? Because I know that some guys could compete in, UFC Fight
yeah,
Pass invitationals during their career. I don't know if that would, get in the way with your sort of training camps, but is that ever something you would consider?
yeah, you could do it. Money talks. Everyone knows I like to compete anyway. I enjoy it. So it's exciting, and then you get a paycheck on top of it. Gives you a goal and it gives you a direction. Beautiful. So yeah, both. I'd like to do both. So even the grappling, I would do it.
All right. Run for office or become an actor after the
I'll
UFC
become an
career.
actor.
Okay.
Run for office is like, yeah, I'll stay out of the politics, mate. But I mean, acting, I enjoy the acting. I actually really enjoy that sort of stuff. So, yeah, I'll go acting for sure.
Okay. Do you think you could beat a walrus in a fight? And if so, how would you game plan for fighting a walrus? Just a quick game plan. Throw it out there.
I mean, they don't really have many limbs, right? I don't think what can
No,
they?
man.
Yeah, I'm
They're
going
just
to
gonna
dust them
slug
up.
them.
I
They're gonna
think.
trudge forward and slug themselves forward.
Yeah, I mean, like, good. You just fight at range, mate. Couple of teeps. Just make sure you don't teep straight into a
Dude.
tooth. But I mean,
There we go.
there
That's
you go.
exactly what I've been saying, man. I make videos on how to defeat these animals. I said teeps. Do not face it front on and get to the side. Just pepper to the side and wait for the final bell. Side kicks and front kicks to the midsection. This
Yeah,
is
keep
this
it
is
away.
why this
You're
guy's
going to
the
take.
goat.
Hopefully, he doesn't
Exactly.
bite your foot, but.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
he can't parry, he can't do nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A tope to his big throat,
Yeah,
or what
they've got
belly throat, whatever you want to call it.
the
I mean,
tusks.
it's a
They've
big
got the
target.
big up and down. That's it. The big up
They
and
go
down.
straight. They just got straight lines. So
Yep.
bit of range and footwork, you're going to be all right.
Is lighter man skill real or a myth? Lighter man skill, it's the idea that as you go up in weight classes, skill progressively gets a tiny bit worse. But more specifically, when people move up, they have success. A lot of guys, they move up, they become a champion when they've maybe not even been ranked. Again, you gave Islam Makhachev his toughest fight. Lighter man skill, you've trained with a lot of people. Is there something to that?
Yeah, for sure. You know what I mean? Whether people get offended by that, that's just how it is. I think, but you got to remember the numbers game as well. There's so many more lighter fighters out there than there is heavier fighters. A lot of your heavier
Yeah,
athletes, taller, big athletes, they've got so many other sports, your basketball, NFL, rugby league, you name it. There's so
right.
many other sports where a lot of your athletes and talented guys, they've got to spread out. With us lighter guys,
Absolutely.
we don't really have many sports other than horse racing and fighting. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I was always going to be a jockey. Now I've always been too big to be a jockey, but I'm short. So even though I was pretty quite handy rugby league, but I mean you got so many athletes and great talent. in them lighter divisions, and that's just it's so many more numbers. So you're always going to have more skill, and that's just how it
Got it.
is. And they're lighter, and I just think it's a no brainer, and I don't think
A
anyone should
little
be
bit of it
offended.
is because the weight, gravity, but what you said is on point about, there's just
Yeah,
a smaller talent pool in the heavier weight classes because people are going to the other sports, of course.
but then
Yeah.
you get some obviously some heavier dudes that just.
Yeah.
I mean, your Aspinall for a heavyweight, obviously John Jones for when it comes
Yep.
to skill. Uh, then you get anomaly. I guess you would say, mate, especially Aspinall, he moves like a bloody lightweight, which you just
Yeah.
don't see. So he's you do get some fighters that will have that type of skill, but you're going to see more of them, and most of them in the lighter divisions.
Of course. I got two more for you. Favorite type of steak? Cut. Cut of steak.
Well, do you call them ribeye or Scotch fillet?
Oh, ribeye. We call them ribeye. Yeah.
Yeah. We call them.
Ribeye.
Yes. Oh yeah. The America ribeye. We call them Scotch fillets. Yeah, ribeye. Ribeye will be my
Yeah.
favorite without the bone. So I know everyone loves
Yep.
bone in. I like without the bone. I'll do it with the bone in. It's more appealing, and everyone's like, "Well,
Looks
yeah, bone
better,
in
but
looks
there's some about
looks
the
better."
flavor, right?
Yeah, I think so, and I just think even cooking it, I know I just feel like I get a tender steak, and I can always cook just without the bone, a ribeye, so much better. So I
Yeah.
think if you want to show off with texture and tenderness in steak, I feel like you can do a lot better without the bone. So there's another
All
little
right.
tip for you. Cooking with Volk.
And then the last question: if you could teleport to any time in history, future, or you can go to the future too, or you can go to the past, how far would you go forward or backwards, and what would you want to see? What would you want to witness? This is the final one.
So you can just go back at any time, right? Like
Or in the
all right.
future, you could choose. You can go as many
But
years as you
you
want
come
in the
back to
future.
now, right? You can come back to now. You
You
just want
can
to
come
see it.
back to
Just
now.
all right. I don't want
Yeah,
to
yeah.
change anything. I wouldn't change a thing. But all right. Okay, it's a good question. I mean, future. The
Okay.
future. You know what I mean? Like you heard about stuff. There's footage. There's history. We don't know what's ahead. So going forward, a time that 100 years or something, I wouldn't mind seeing what's going on. Let's see if let's see if the Earth's still here. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
let's. I wouldn't mind seeing what's happening.
All right. That's a good
Just
answer.
I
Well,
wouldn't mind seeing before my time's done. After my time's done,
yeah.
what's in store for my kids maybe?
Right.
Oh, you know
Yeah.
what? There you go. Perfect. That's a good one. I would want to know what's happening in the future so I could steer my children in the right direction the best way I can. There you go.
That's well thought out. I like that. I like that.
Yeah,
Well,
strategy, mate, and fight
yeah.
IQ. You know,
There you go. Well,
life IQ.
of course. I want to thank you, Volkanovski, for coming on the channel. Again, it means a lot to me. You're my favorite fighter, so I really appreciate this. And before we wrap things up, is there anything you want to let people know before we end this thing?
Nah, man, just appreciate the support from yourself. I'll say so. I appreciate the support. Obviously, you got some loyal fans, and so have you been asking for this for a while? Is that how it
I
started?
mean, I've always wanted to do fighter interviews, but I mean, this is like a bucket list thing, Volkanovski. I mean, this
Okay.
is big. This is a big moment. So I've wanted to interview you for a long time.
All right. Yeah.
So
Well,
I really
just
appreciate
yeah,
it.
man, just appreciation for everyone. I mean, we talk about that moment in my career. After that second fight with Max, where I was getting a lot of hate. I didn't get there. That I didn't get it. You know what I mean? But now, over the last few years, the love has just been and the support's just been incredible. So I just want to thank everyone for that. I guess one thing I'm most proud of, is that I was able to be myself for the whole process, and I think people can appreciate that. And I just want to know I appreciate every one of you guys as well.
Well, thank you, Volkanovski. I really appreciate this. And I just wanted to say there were a lot of people that at that time period, during, when people were hating and all that, there were lots of people where that right there made people start to love you because they didn't understand it either. They thought it was nonsense too. I'm one of those people. A lot of other people out there like that as well. So I just wanted to say thank you so much. I appreciate it. You're a busy guy. You've got a lot of things to do. Good luck with everything, your training, your recovery, your family life. Wish you all the best, man. God bless. Thank you so
No
much.
worries. Thank you. There may be a cooking with Volk collab
Hopefully
sometime
I
as well.
can
All
come
right.
to Australia someday. So that'd be
All right.
awesome. Man. All right.
Sounds
Take
good,
it
man.
easy.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm glad we got it done.